Hi, hello there. Welcome to your weekly werewolf report in the year of the werewolf. I'm trying to get used to it, I promise. Okay, so I'm in a better mood this week. I feel lots better. So we're not going to have that tired, grumpy thing going on this week, despite the fact that it wasn't a fruitful week. Not really, but I've still got stuff to talk about, so don't worry, there's still stuff to report on. So, the book. The book was recommended to me by one of you lovely people, and thank you. Keep them coming. We're in a weird place, okay? Because I didn't care for the book. Now, wait a minute. Just wait a second. So, I harp a lot on here about art is subjective, and I want to make sure that you understand, as well as I understand, that my opinion on a work has no bearing on its value as a creation. It just means it didn't work for me. And in this book in particular, although there were issues with it that kind of kept me from being able to really love it, there were parts of it that mystified me, that really interested me, because there's a lot that's kind of fresh and different about this book, even though it didn't work for me. I still think it has value. And when we're compiling a list of werewolf books that I think should be read, even though this one wouldn't make my personal list, I do think this book has value to werewolf fans. And I'll be honest with this one, and I'll tell you what didn't work for me, but I also want to make sure to point out the things that I thought were interesting about it, because it's complicated, because I really didn't end up loving this book, even while I couldn't stop reading it. I was stuck in it, if that makes any sense, because there have been some books where, especially as I get older, when I was younger, I had a really hard time quitting books that I wasn't enjoying. It was very much power through, but I'm in my 40s now, and I just don't have enough life left before me to stick with a book that I'm absolutely hating. That wasn't the case with this. Absolutely hating doesn't describe what I ended up ultimately feeling, but we'll get there. So before I get to this, there's my son gifted me with something that I want to share with you. So
Okay, I just want to talk really quick about the cover of this. I don't know if I'm going to make this a normal thing, but if there's something to make fun of on these covers, I'm going to do it. So, this one in particular has mystified my youngest son. And he came to me last night and was like, "Mom, what is that on the cover of that book?" Because apparently he can't read. And he was like, "It looks like a really angry rabbit." And I explained to him, you have to read the book, but actually, yes, it does look like a really angry rabbit.
Angry Bunny. Now, the book, of course, is St. Peter's Wolf by Michael Cadnum. And if you're interested in buying this, just know there's something kind of amok going on with this. Now, it looks okay now. It's available in ebook and audiobook and paperback. Now, a few weeks ago, when it was first recommended to me, I went looking for it, and the paperback wasn't on Amazon. I had to go to Thrift Books to get a physical copy of this book, because it wasn't on Amazon. It looks like it's fine now, but I wondered that there was some sort of shenanigans going on there. So with this book, it's a book about, and I don't want to give a whole lot away, because if you do read this, I want you to go in fresh. I'm not I don't want to give you too much of the tooling on what's going on here, but it is a werewolf book, but it's from the point of view of the person going through the change. And it's a long journey we go on with this person, through their loss of humanity, through the ecstasy that they feel when an animal. This is not the type of werewolf where you totally lose yourself in animal form. There's still a part of you that's there that can control. Maybe not at first, like when you're new, you kind of lose yourself in the thrall of the beast, but as time goes on, as you change more and more, you're in control. You're still there. You're still you. You're just also an animal. You also have these new senses and these new instincts. And while there is murder and violence in this, for a monster book, there's a lot of just kind of living as an animal in this. And that is one thing that I ended up not loving about this, because I feel like it dragged a little bit because of that. But also it was interesting. The scenes where he's just so in love with these new feelings, with these new senses, with this new body. There is a little bit of fear, like when he realizes what's going on, when he realizes his change, when he realizes that he's not who he once was, because even in human form, you're changed. And he's afraid of that, but there's something very subdued and muted about this fear that was both interesting and kind of a letdown. I wanted more rawness from this, and I didn't get a lot of that. There's a lot of character development. There's a lot of action. There's one really long scene in particular where he's trying to evade capture, and I'm just gonna take a drink. Where he's trying to evade capture, and it spans several chapters, and it's very high tension, very intense, and that was great. I just found this book to be very uneven. The ending, I mean, I'm not mad about the ending. There were just some things that I don't want to rag on it a bunch, because I do think it's worth a read. There were just some things that I rolled my eyes at a little bit, things that were like, oh, okay. Like communing with nature, communing with actual animals. It was a little because, in case you haven't noticed yet, I want my werewolves to be senseless, rampaging beasts. I want it to be horror. And I would put this book more as a thriller. The horror that one would normally feel in losing themselves, in changing like they do, it's not there. And it's very subdued, very muted. And they end up saying they don't consider this a curse. It's a blessing. It's a return to nature, which I do think is interesting. It just didn't work for me. It just didn't work for me. And I don't feel good about it. But I want horror, you know, but I do think this book is worth a peek. If you're one of those people that can do audiobooks, because I like to have audiobooks playing in my ears when I'm busy doing something, when I'm gardening, when I'm cleaning house, when I'm painting something, that this would have been great for that. And I do think it's something you should check out, because the way, we'll call it a curse, the way the curse is delivered is interesting. And I've only seen it one other time, and it was in a movie I talked about earlier, The Cursed. And I'd never seen this before. And I think it's fresh. I think it's unique. I really thought it was spiffy. I maybe that's why I'm kind of disappointed in this book personally, is because I wanted more, because there were some really good new ideas at play here. And it just kind of ended up being something that I wasn't expecting. So if you check it out, let me know what you thought, because I would like to talk about it. I do think werewolf fans would see value in this book. I do recommend it. So having said that, having gotten all that out of the way, the movies this week were a total bust. I knew it was going to happen again. I was on a really good streak, but so the first movie, I'm not going to give titles or anything. You know how it is. The first movie was recommended to me by someone who I'm friends with on Twitter, and they ended up saying, hey, did you see this werewolf movie? You know, I think you should watch it. And then came back later and was like, you know, I actually had to quit the movie. I didn't end up liking it. And it was like, okay. I've said before, I'm easy. That doesn't deter me. Someone saying I ended up not liking it. Well, maybe I will. And I hope you're like that too. So I checked it out. I had to actually go on Amazon to watch it, but it was free on there because Amazon partners with or has a free service called Freevee. 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 Yes. That's I type it, I don't say it out loud. And I was able to watch it for free. And there were parts of this that were neat. It was supposed to be funny. And it's a British movie, and because it's a British movie, it was very loquacious. There was a lot of jawing on, as they would say. To put it plainly, a lot of talking. A lot of blah blah. To the point where it was too much blah blah. Not enough werewolf. The werewolf was not even central. The werewolf story was barely central. And the way they killed the werewolf is hands down the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Dumbest. And usually, I'm not against dumb, especially in comedy. Dumb and comedy go together. This one was a step too far. Not a fan. So the second one, I went to my beloved Tubi and turned it on. And so the first one was, it could be called low budget, but it looked good. You know, the production value was good. This one was a movie from 1994. And there's low budget and then there's micro budget. This one was micro budget. And let me condense it for you, because I ended up quitting this movie. I made it about 45 minutes in when I decided, nope, again, in my 40s, not enough life remaining, we gotta quit this. It's like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but instead of turtles, it's a werewolf. A government genetically modified werewolf. And it comes with these dollar store dystopian Foot Clan, complete with their own dollar store dystopian shredder, who was lame. And I'm making it sound better than it was, and I'm not gushing on it. It was awful. I had to quit it, and I was sitting there. You know, my husband's gone. My kids know it's werewolf night. They don't usually want to be down there with me, so I was like, what the hell am I going to do? I watched The Wolfman from 2010. And you know what? I had a great time. I, just a couple weeks ago, read the novelization of the movie by Jonathan Mayberry and was having deep thoughts. And I did a kind of a long video having deep thoughts about that book and that movie, so I wanted to watch it again. And I had a great time. I liked this movie from the start. I went and saw it in theaters. I probably had just found out I was pregnant with my youngest son when it came out. And I liked it from the start. My problem was with the Anthony Hopkins werewolf, but I explained a couple videos ago that has grown on me. I have thought on it and decided it was actually a pretty good idea. And watching it last night, I, had my phone in my hand and I'm watching, but I'm also reading up on it. I could have sworn that they had like a stuntman, a large stuntman in the wolf suit. I did not know that was Benicio del Toro in the suit. And I'm going to keep talking, but I'm going to put up pictures here of Benicio del Toro getting make-upped up in a full body suit. And then you can see him getting the head stuff done with his ears. I did not know. Something else I didn't know that makes me love it even more is Benicio del Toro loves the original The Wolfman starring Lon Chaney Jr. He's a huge fan of that movie. So when he found out that Universal was going to do a remake, a re-up of it, he wanted to be attached immediately. And he has a producer credit in this as well as being the star. And he was attached to this movie from when they first announced they were going to do it in 2006. It didn't come out until 2010. It went through lots of directors, lots of creative disagreements, and I'm glad that we got it. I think one of the problems some of the classic horror fans might have with this movie upon watching it is it does seem very polished, maybe even a little overly machined. There is a sense of it being a bit of a universal ride, despite all of the gore and the murder, which I think is great. They really embraced the werewolf in this movie and made it violent, made it just gushy and fast-paced, and everything you want in a monster movie. They did it right. There is just a sense of it being just slightly too polished, little too much CGI, even though Rick Baker, who does a cameo in the movie, Rick Baker did this. Rick Baker did the creature stuff in this. And I think that might be one of the things, because with our classic horror movies, we're very used to it looking a little slapdash, a little bootstrappy. You know, we can see the desperation to finish on time and on budget in some of our classic horror movies. And this one just, it's very slick. It's very, just a little too done. And that's the dumbest complaint I can have for a movie. But I'm trying to relate to the people who hate it. I'm trying to, and that's what I've come up with. Am I wrong? I don't know. But yeah, I ended up ending the night watching that movie and remembering why I love werewolves, why I'm doing this really stupid thing of spending a whole year on them. And I think that's it this week. I don't know what else to talk about. Yeah, there's more books coming, more movies, of course. They're not running out of them anytime soon. I am getting, thanks to bloodydisgusting.com, they're making more werewolf movies, it seems. It seems like I'm not the only person screaming about a werewolf resurgence. It does feel like they're making more movies now. So there are some coming. And one in particular coming here in June that I'm looking forward to. So maybe we'll have good things to talk about. So stick with me. We'll finish out the year. And then next year, I'm not reading any more monster books. So thank you, as always, for coming here and commenting and recommending. You guys are helping make this a worthwhile endeavor. You really are. So thank you. And I hope the world is treating you well. I hope everything is going great. I hope you're enjoying the weather, because the weather is being sketchy as hell. One day it's hot, one day it's cold. What's going on? So I'll see you next week. Bye.